In our last lecture, we have discussed about bronchiectasis. Now today we will discuss about atelectasis. But before going into atelectasis, we will first understand what is ventilation perfusion ratio. And to understand what is ventilation perfusion ratio, we will understand the basic differences between the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. So pulmonary circulation is the circulation between the heart and the lungs, and systemic circulation is the circulation between the heart and rest of the body. So systemic circulation is a greater circulation and pulmonary circulation is a lesser circulation. It means the blood is circulating through a smaller circuit. But problem arises when you try to define cardiac output. What is cardiac output? Cardiac output is the amount of the blood pumped by each ventricle per minute. If the cardiac output is 5 liters at rest, it means that the right ventricle will pump the blood into pulmonary circuit at the rate of 5 liters per minute, and the left ventricle will pump the blood into systemic circuit at a rate of 5 liters per minute. It means in the greater circulation, 5 liters of the blood is pumped, but also in the lesser circulation, 5 liters of blood is pumped. So the greater circulation can accommodate the blood, but here the circulation is very less. The circuit is very less compared to the systemic circulation, but also the same 5 liters is pumped per minute. So in a lesser circulation, the same amount of the blood is being pumped. One can actually expect there to be a higher resistance and a high pressure pulmonary system, low pressure systemic system. But in contrast to that, the pulmonary circulation is a low pressure circulation and systemic circulation is a high pressure circulation. Now why there is a less pressure in the pulmonary circulation is because the pulmonary vasculature bed is so designed that it will offer lesser resistance, and when there is a lesser resistance there will be less pressure. So the pulmonary circulation offers lesser resistance to the flow of the blood in contrast to the systemic circulation. Now, what are the adaptations by this pulmonary circulation which make it a less resistant circulation? First, the lumen. The lumen of the pulmonary circulation is wider compared to the lumen of the systemic circulation. So when the lumen is wider, it can accommodate more and more blood. So this is the first reason. The lumen is wider. Of the arteries, arterioles, veins, capillaries are wider corresponding to their counterparts. Second, the thickness. The wall of the pulmonary vasculature is very thin compared to the wall of the systemic vasculature. Systemic vasculature has a lot of smooth muscles, so the wall is thick, but here the wall is thin. So when the wall is thin, when more amount of the blood flows in, it is easily distendable. And it is easily distendable means that it is more compliant. And more compliant means that it will easily allow the more amount of the blood to flow. This is second. Third is the resting vasoconstrictor tone. These systemic muscles have a sympathetic vasoconstrictor tone in their smooth muscles, which will cause their vasoconstriction even at rest. But here, the sympathetic vasoconstrictor tone is abolished. So because of these three reasons, the pulmonary circulation, even though lesser in size, will accommodate the same amount of the blood as systemic circulation can by simple mechanism that it will reduce the resistance to the flow of the blood. And when it reduces the resistance to the flow of the blood, it is by these three mechanisms. 1. Wider lumen. 2. Thinner walls, which increase the compliance. 3. The smooth muscle tone, which is not there. It means that when 5 liters of blood is pumped into the pulmonary circulation, it can easily accommodate that blood. But what if 6 liters of blood is pumped? 7 liters of blood is pumped? If the person is in standing position, the blood will be pulled, so there will be less blood pumped into the pulmonary circulation because venous return is less. But if the person suddenly assumes recumbent position, the effect of the gravity is abolished. Blood from the veins in the body will rush through the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. From the right atrium, they will go into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, they will go into the pulmonary arteries. From the pulmonary arteries, they will come into the pulmonary circulation. Now, more than 5 liters of the blood is there. Already the circuit is small, still it is accommodating more amount of the blood. Again, if added to that, more amount of blood is pumped into the pulmonary circulation. What happens to the pressure? The pressure does not increase. Instead, the pressure falls. This is because of the distensibility of the pulmonary capillaries. The wall of the pulmonary capillaries is so thin that if a slight amount of the blood increases also, the pulmonary capillaries get distended. And when the pulmonary capillaries get distended, there is more amount of the space for the blood to flow, and that will maintain the flow of the blood still at a less pressure. So this is the capillary distension. But this is a minor process. What major process that contributes to this is the lung. The capillaries in the apex of the lung are normally shut. For time being, trust me that the capillaries are shut. Later I'll tell why. The capillaries in the apex of lung are shut because they are less perfused. Their perfusion is low, they are shut. Whenever the perfusion increases, whenever more blood is given to the lung, these capillaries open up. And when these capillaries open up, there is so much of extensive networking of capillaries in the lung that when they open up, they will provide the space which is more than enough for the blood to accommodate. Right? So this is called as capillary recruitment. Because of capillary distension and capillary recruitment, the amount of the space is so much that more and more amount of blood can be easily accommodated without rising the resistance or the pressure. So this is the reason, even though if the feeding to the pulmonary vasculature is increased, the resistance won't increase but instead falls. Right? So basically we understood that the pulmonary circulation is a lesser circulation, but the amount of blood being pumped into the pulmonary circulation per minute is same, but it will not increase the resistance to the flow of the blood by 3 mechanisms. One is by having a wider lumen, second is by having thinner walls which increase the compilability, third is by having the lesser vasoconstrictor tone. Right? And whenever the pulmonary circulation increases, then the resistance does not increase but falls, mainly because of the capillary recruitment and also because of the capillary distension. So basically it means that pulmonary circulation can handle the pressure. Now this pressure, whatever is there in the pulmonary circulation, it is not uniform everywhere in the lungs. It varies. Naturally, because of the effect of the gravity, the perfusion will be more in the base than in the apex. Actually, the perfusion in the base is 5 times more than that of the apex. This is the lung, this is apex and base. As you move down from apex to base, the perfusion increases. So there is a less perfusion in the apex and there is a more perfusion in the base. As a result, the arterial pressure also varies. At the level of the heart, the arterial pressure is 14 mmHg. And as you go upwards towards the apex, the pressure falls down. As you come downwards towards the base, the pressure increases. Right? So how much increase? As you go upwards, for every 1 centimeter above than the level of the heart you go, the pressure falls by 0.74 mmHg. And the apex is located 10 centimeter above the level of the heart. So the pressure at the apex will be 14 mmHg minus 10 into 0.74, which is 6.6 mmHg. So the pressure at the apex of the lung, the pulmonary arterial pressure at the apex of the lung will be 6.6 mmHg. At the middle, it will be 14 mmHg. And at the base, similarly here, 1 centimeter below you go, for every 1 centimeter below, it will become increased by 0.7 mmHg. And the base is located 5 centimeter below the heart, level of the heart. So at the base, the pressure will be 14 plus 5 into 0.7, which is nearly 17.7 mm Hg. So the perfusion increases from apex to base. As you go downwards, the perfusion increases. As a result, the pressure also increases. So the arterial pressure measured at the apex will be 6.6 mm Hg. In the center, it will be 14 mm Hg, and in the base, it will be 17.7 mm Hg. So what is the pressure in the pulmonary circulation? It is between 5 to 20. Now, since the pressure changes at different levels, the perfusion also changes at different levels, the pressure also changes at different levels, and also the ventilation changes at different levels. As you move downwards, the ventilation keeps on increasing. So, the ventilation at the base is twice more than that of the apex, and the perfusion at the base is 5 times more than that of the apex. So ventilation is twice more than that of the apex, and perfusion is 5 times more than that of the apex. It means that from the apex to base, as you go downwards, the ventilation increases, perfusion increases. Meaning apex is less ventilated, less perfused, base is more ventilated, more perfused. And the ratio of this ventilation to the perfusion is called as ventilation perfusion ratio. Now what is ventilation? Ventilation is the amount of the air in the alveoli. Perfusion is the amount of the blood in the capillary. Right? Normally, 4 liters of air will be pumped into the lung per minute, both lungs. And in 1 minute, 5 liters of the blood will be pumped into both lungs. So, the ratio will be 0.8. The ventilation perfusion ratio is normally less than 1. What does it mean? There is a less ventilation but more perfusion. Means that less ventilation but more perfusion. What actually it means is 5 liters of blood is going through the lungs, but only 4 liters of blood is available. Air is available. So the blood is not oxygenated as it was expected to be. It means all the 5 liters of blood is not oxygenated because the only 4 liters of air is available. Right? And this leads to what is called as physiological shunting. Right? Normally, how this exchange process takes place is through the alveolo-capillary membrane. Right? Through the alveolo-capillary membrane or the respiratory membrane, where there is a basement membrane surfactant, and beneath the surfactant there is a basement membrane of the alveoli, which is lined by the alveolar endothelial cells, and then there is a basement membrane of the endothelium, and in the basement membrane of the capillary endothelium there are capillary endothelial cells, and inside this capillary endothelial cell there is a RBC. Now this layer constitutes the capillary alveolo-capillary membrane, in which take part the surfactant of the alveoli, the endothelium of the alveoli, basement membrane of the alveoli, and the endothelium of the capillary, and endothelium of the capillary and the basement membrane of the capillary, all these, and the interstitium here. So these together constitute the alveolar capillary membrane. Now the oxygen, so how many layers of the alveolar capillary membrane are there? There are 6 layers. One is the basement membrane, second is alveolar endothelium, third is alveolar basement membrane, 4 interstitium, 5 the basement membrane of the capillary, 6 endothelium of the capillary. The oxygen from all the way will pass into the red hemoglobin of the red blood cell. Now, through how many layers the oxygen has passed through? It has to pass through 10 layers. First is surfactant, second is endothelium of the alveoli, third is basement membrane, fourth is interstitium, fifth is basement membrane, sixth is capillary endothelium, seventh is plasma, eighth is red blood cell membrane, ninth is the intracellular fluid in the red cell, and 10th is hemoglobin. So oxygen has to pass through 10 layers, while the capillary alveolar membrane is made up of 6 layers. Anyhow, normally this is what occurs, right? So this is the capillary Here will be the arteriole, and here will be the venule. Now this is carrying less oxygenated blood. Less oxygenated blood is being carried. Here oxygenation occurs and more oxygenated blood is given to the heart. Right? But normally the perfusion through here is 5 liters. But the ventilation is only 4 liters. It means some amount of the blood is not oxygenated properly. It means whatever the blood that this vein carries, in that some amount of the blood is a less oxygenated blood. This is what is shunting. Normally shunting occurs in heart diseases. In heart diseases, when, for example, when there is a ventricular septal defect, the blood from the right ventricle will shunt into the blood from the left ventricle will shunt into the right ventricle. So there is mixing up of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. That is pathological shunting, but this is physiological shunting. Physiological shunting occurs because the ventilation perfusion ratio is less than 0.8. It means only 4 liters of blood is air is available, but the blood flow is 5 liters. As a result, some amount of the blood will remain deoxygenated only when it comes out of the capillaries, and this is around 2% of the cardiac output. This is around 2% of the cardiac output. This is physiological shunting. But what happens when this is hypoventilated? When there is no oxygen here, then this physiological shunting increases and becomes pathological shunting, which is about 20%, and this is what happens in the atelectasis. In the atelectasis, because of the obstruction, there is a less oxygen here. Because of less oxygen here, less oxygen is passed through this capillary. The blood here is less oxygenated, and here the physiological shunting, whatever was there, now it rises and becomes about 20% of the cardiac output, which is pathological shunting. Right? This is the importance of ventilation perfusion ratio. Again, since the ventilation is different at different levels and the perfusion is different at different levels, the ventilation perfusion ratio will also vary. These are the level of the heart. Right? We will take this lung. Now, since ventilation perfusion is different at different parts of the lung, meaning the ventilation and perfusion increase as you go downwards, so that at any given part of the lung, the ventilation perfusion ratio will be different from the other part. As a result, the lung is physiologically divided into 3 zones: the upper zone, middle zone, lower zone. Anatomically, it is divided into lobes, but physiologically, it is divided into zones. Right? Now, what surely happens here? Here there is a alveoli. Here also there is a alveoli. Here also there is a alveoli. Right. Now here is a capillary. Here is a capillary. Here is a capillary. Here perfusion is less. So what was the pressure here? 6.6 mmHg. Here 14 mmHg. Here 17.7 mmHg. Now here in the upper zone, what happens is the pressure in the capillary is almost the same as that of the pressure in the alveoli. So now this pressure is just able to maintain the perfusion. The pressure is same here, so it is just able to maintain the perfusion. But in condition when the pressure decreases, for example, person is lying down, person stands. When the person stands, the perfusion reduces. When the perfusion reduces, the alveolar pressure becomes more than that of the pressure in the capillary, and the capillary endothelium is so thin that once the pressure in the alveolus becomes more than that of the pressure in the capillary will compress. So this is why normally in upper zone, most of the capillaries are compressed. Because of the effect of the gravity, the perfusion is reduced and the capillary pressure becomes less than the pressure in the alveoli, and owing to the very thin membrane of the endothelium in the capillary, once the pressure in the alveolus becomes more than the pressure in the capillary will collapse. So this is why I said earlier here that most of the capillaries in the upper lobe, they are collapsed. But this upper zone containing collapsed capillaries is very small. It is very small, and it assumes importance in the pathological conditions where the blood flow is reduced. For example, hemorrhagic shock. In the hemorrhagic shock, there's a lot of blood going out from the body. To maintain the perfusion to vital organs like brain, all the blood is taken and sent to the brain. Then the perfusion in the upper zone becomes less and less. When the perfusion becomes less and less, more and more capillaries have lesser pressures compared to their alveoli. As a result, alveoli will cause the compression of the capillaries. More and more capillaries get compressed, and the upper zone containing this compressed, collapsed capillaries increases. Right? That's only the pathological condition. So now here, what is happening? What is happening to the ventilation and perfusion? Right? So compared to the perfusion, the ventilation is more. So compared to the perfusion, the ventilation is more. As a result, the ratio of the ventilation perfusion will increase and go up to 3.6. At the apex, the ventilation perfusion ratio is 3.6. Here, the ventilation perfusion ratio will be 0.8, as we discussed earlier. And lower, as it comes down, perfusion increases. Perfusion goes on increasing. Ventilation also increases, but ventilation increases only twice. And the perfusion increases 5 times. So, perfusion increases 5 times. It means that capillary pressure will be much more than that of the pressure in the alveoli. As a result, the perfusion will be more than that of the ventilation, and the ratio falls to 0.6. Right? So the pressure at different zones of the lung is different. The perfusion is different. Ventilation is different, and ventilation perfusion ratio is different. Now, assume that this is a capillary. This is the alveoli. This is the airway proximal to the alveoli, and this is the capillary. So ventilation perfusion ratio. Now think that there is a thrombus formation here. So what happens to the perfusion? Perfusion decreases. But what happens to the ventilation? Ventilation remains same. So what happens to the ventilation perfusion ratio? Increases. Ventilation perfusion ratio increases because perfusion is decreased. Now the same thing, there is no thrombus here, but the obstruction is here. There's complete obstruction is here, so neither air can come in nor air can go out. As a result, since air is not coming inside, the oxygen content here is reduced. So what happened to the ventilation? The ventilation is decreased. But what happened to the perfusion? Perfusion is maintained. So what happens here? The ventilation is decreased, perfusion is maintained. So ventilation perfusion ratio will decrease, and this is what happens in atelectasis. This is what happens in atelectasis. When there's a complete blockage, air cannot come inside, ventilation is decreased, and so ventilation perfusion ratio will be decreased. One more thing. Here in the apex, ventilation is also less, perfusion is also less. In the base, ventilation is more, perfusion is more. So if more oxygen is available in the alveoli, but all the oxygen is drained by the capillaries, so the oxygen will not stay in the alveoli. But here, ventilation is more compared to the perfusion. Because ventilation perfusion ratio is positive, ventilation is more compared to the perfusion. There's more and more amount of oxygen available, but that is not being taken up by the capillaries. As a result, more and more oxygen will accumulate in the alveoli, and this becomes a very good spot for organisms for Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Hence, Mycobacterium tuberculosis commonly affects in TB. The common part of the lung that is affected is apex of the lung, because there is more oxygen, but it is not being taken up, so oxygen will accumulate here. With this background, we will discuss what actually happens in the atelectasis. Atele means little, and ectasis means stretching.